Hey everybody, it's Glenn. You're definitely not getting tired of me today. This is going to be the third tasting that we're doing today about a part of the Stay Home with Chocolate Festival. We are coming live to you in 20 minutes with, hey Kim, we're coming live to you in 20 minutes with David Menkes of LetterPress Chocolate. It's their 6th anniversary, so we're going to have a great celebration. I want you to bring your A game. I want to bring you guys to bring your support. Make sure you come by and support David and Corey. They're the amazing team behind LetterPress. And so be back in 20 minutes live here on Instagram. And we have 4 bars ready to go to taste. And you'll be able to get your hands on these tonight. Special offer. So come back and we'll see you there. 20 minutes. Bye. Hey guys, it's Glenn and it's 9 o'clock and it's time to have some chocolate with LetterPress Chocolate. Welcome to our session for the 9 o'clock hour for the Taste Stay Home with Chocolate Festival. Hi everybody that's joining. We're going to be waiting on David to join shortly. Got a rep LetterPress Chocolate t-shirt and everything. Hey Trish, hey Joe. All right, so we're waiting on David to join, and then and we'll add him to it. We hope everybody's everybody has been enjoying the festival this entire weekend, and it's coming to a close tonight. So we hope that everybody's been able to support their chocolate maker friends and meet new chocolate makers, and it's a great time to reach out and support all those. So we see that David is joined. All right. So once he sends in that request, we will spring into getting him on. Here we go. Hey!
How's it going?
Hi. Good, David. How are you?
Good, good.
How's everything going out in LA?
Could be better, could be worse.
Yep. Well, we have a lot of people that are joining right now, so we'll keep keep an eye on all of those people in the chat. If anybody has any questions for David, just throw them out there. But first, I want to wish David and Corey and LetterPress a happy 6th anniversary today. It's been 6 years, and David, what's been going on for your anniversary so far?
Yeah, so let's see, we did a video. So funny enough, late last week I was trying to get this project done, and I must have just overworked myself because I ended up getting a really bad cold. No, it wasn't the coronavirus. I didn't have a fever or anything, but I was really sick, so I had to stay home. So what we did was I went and took all of our videos that we had shot over the last 6 years and edited them together and posted that late last night. So that's online now. I think you can view it on our profile or something on Instagram. And then as part of that, we did a contest to see if people were actually paying attention to the video, and put some little Easter eggs in there, and then basically said, hey, if you notice these things, there's some questions about it, and then people were able to answer that and win some chocolates. That was kind of cool.
Awesome, nice. And we have a special bundle to talk about today during our session, but we do have 4 bars that we're going to taste today with you guys. We're ready to go with those. So it'll be the Ghana 70%, the Amaranth Crunch, which is one of my favorite ones.
Thanks.
The Mocha, the 70% Mocha, and then the Tranquilidad, 70%. So I guess let's just kick it off. If anybody, let me just see if anybody has any questions. Auntie Vera says she got her order, David, and it's
Cool.
amazing. So kudos. She says thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, so I guess we could start with the Ghana bar. So I guess tell everybody what was your inspiration behind it, and what was your approach?
Yeah. So basically, the thing with us is that, like a lot of other bean-to-bar chocolate makers, one of the biggest challenges is just sourcing interesting cacao. And so what we found is that a lot of makers kind of hover around the same 7 to 10 origins kind of over and over again, and we really wanted to do something different. Specifically, we wanted to try to find something that was maybe a little bit less fruity and more just really chocolatey, and that's actually a really big challenge. Because a lot of the beans out there we find they're just really fruity, which is fine, but it's just kind of cool to do something a little bit different. So we wanted to make a really, really accessible bar. So this is from a co-op called Cocobod. It's actually the largest exporter of fine flavor cacao in Ghana. We've been working with them for about 2-3 years now. And we just find that it just has it's kind of what we were looking for. And so it's actually the base of all of our flavored bars, because originally, I'm trying to think, and I'll talk a little bit more about this when we go on to the Amaranth Crunch, but originally we were using Dominican Republic origin, and then we switched to Belize, and then we switched over to Ghana, just because we really wanted to have just a really chocolatey chocolate. But I'll let you talk about that. I did print out your tasting sheet, and mine's in color. See that, Ben? Color printer. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So I don't know how to fix the flip on Instagram. It's weird. It's not mirrored. But basically, with my in-person tastings and online tastings now, I've 4-step guide to help you mindfully taste chocolate and appreciate every step of the way. So obviously the first step is looking at the colors. Maybe it's the variety that's different, or the origin. So we could compare when we get to comparing most of them. Also the temper. It's a sign of how good David tempers his chocolate, and so we get all those crystals in play. And then obviously we'll smell the aromas and see what we taste out of it. And from the bottom you can see what flavors you may taste. This is just a helpful guide. But yeah, it's something that's a useful tool. And we can talk more about that later. But what I really want to talk about is your new molds. As I'll hold it up, you may have better lighting than I do, but you can see the details.
Try angling it so it's kind of on end. So the bottom part, angle it like this instead of like this. Rotate it the other way. You want to kind of have the light glance off of it.
That a little bit. You can see a little bit.
Kind of. Here,
you
I'll. Yeah. Hang on one second.
Okay.
Let me catch up real quick.
Got it. There you go. Obviously, you have better light than I do. Yeah. So there's a lot of intricacies to it. It's just so fascinating. But all right. So I really hate breaking such a pretty design, but I'm just going to. There you go.
Okay. So what would you rate that?
I think that's between a 3 and a 4.
Okay.
So it's pretty loud. What do you guys think out there? Was it really loud? Comment where you're hearing it from.
I'm gonna give it a shot too.
I think we have somebody from Venezuela.
Cool.
I think so. Medellin. Oh no, that's not Venezuela. Yeah, you see how the small little grooves of the design. It's just really amazing how intricate it is and how it still comes out.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, that's a good one. So now you want to just take it in. I'm just getting straight up like deep chocolate fudgy notes. Yeah.
You know what's really funny about these beans is that whenever we roast the beans, the whole factory smells like buttered popcorn. It doesn't end up in the finished chocolate, but it's a really, really strong smell when we roast the cacao. So it's interesting how that exists kind of early on. But yeah, it's not in the actual finished chocolate at all. Yeah, very chocolatey.
Yeah. All right, so we'll just taste it now and let it melt. Aerate your mouth a little bit, like wine. Let it air pass through so it comes up to your brain and you'll know what it is. Mm.
Yeah, so what do you get?
The like fudge, chocolate fudge sickle, like those popsicle fudge sickle things, whatever they're called. Growing up, it's like one of those pops. It's exactly what it is.
Cool.
What are you getting?
So for us, I think we even put it on the back of the bar. We said that we got, it's like, we kind of described it as like brownie crust a little bit because we did a slightly heavier roast on it, so you get a little bit more of a toasty note. And I think that's where like a brownie crust, as opposed to like say the center of a pan of brownies. The tasty notes also say graham cracker. To me, that's kind of like a middle of the palate kind of taste. Right on the end, I get a little hint of coconut, and it takes a couple bites to get that, but it's definitely a lot. It's definitely there. Like I definitely get that. And we didn't put that on our tasting because several people told us like, oh, I hate coconut and chocolate. And it's like, okay, well, but we definitely get it on the finish. So yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people were saying that it's a loud snap, like a 4. Some one person said 5 out of 4. So hey, good tempering skills there.
Cool.
Excellent snap, Rochester. Somebody heard it from Rochester. That's like upstate New York.
Yeah.
From where I am. All right, cool. So that's awesome. And so let's move on to the next one, which is I could literally eat this bar probably in one sitting, in like 10 minutes maybe, and that's generous. It's the Amaranth Crunch Bar, and so tell us a little bit about that. Why Amaranth?
Yeah, so basically, I love Nestle Crunch Bars. I always have. I honestly haven't eaten one in a while, so I might not like them now. I'm not really sure. But I love the idea of the texture, right? And so the problem is that if we wanted to do, say, puffed rice, you basically can't puff rice at home. The only way to do it is with like a ridiculous amount of like PSA. It's like I think 300 or 400 PSA. In fact, there's some really funny YouTube videos if you want to watch Chinese street vendors using basically a cannon to blow up the rice, and so it's just not practical to do. So I looked around for a couple different things, and we found there's quinoa, obviously. Amaranth to me had a slightly more toasty flavor. And it's a slightly smaller grain, and so this is actually the most technically challenging bar that we make out of all of our bars because we're injecting the chocolate into the molds, into those cavities, using a syringe. We do that with all of our bars, but it's really the only way to get the amaranth evenly distributed throughout the entire bar, as opposed to, say, sprinkling it on the back. So it's been very, very difficult to make. It's always been a difficult bar for us to make. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, if we end up getting bigger, how are we going to scale that up? And I honestly don't have an answer for that because, like I said, we have a new tempering machine, but I don't think we'd be able to temper it with that. I'm not sure. I mean, I have to try it, but I don't think I can. So we'll find out. But for me, it's like I like the idea of something, a lot of makers, even us, we use nibs as a crunch, right? Like we do our mint crunch, our mocha crunch. But that's obviously sprinkled on the back, and that's a much harder crunch than what you would get through amaranth. Amaranth is a little bit softer tone. And so for me, I like kind of it's almost like a coffee note. I don't know if you're getting that when you're tasting this one.
All right, well, let's see. All right, so let's still have a really loud snap to that.
Yeah, hold up the cross section of the bar so we can kind of see how it's like. Yeah, it's all throughout. The only way to do that is by injecting it directly into the molds. If you just sprinkle it on the back, obviously it would just be on the top, and we didn't want to do that.
Yeah, that's why I like when it's throughout, so that you have like every single piece, every single moment, you're getting some type of texture and crunch to it.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
All right.
Cheers. You get that like the toasty note from like it being like puffed up.
Yeah. That's another thing I forgot to mention. The way that we puff the amaranth is, so normally amaranth you would boil it and make kind of like a porridge out of it, right? But what we did was we air pop it on a stove, like popcorn, like in a pot, with a lid. And we have to do like, I think, maybe a quarter of a cup at a time. Then you have to shake the pot back and forth to evenly distribute the heat on the bottom. Dump that out, and then reload it, dump it out. It takes about maybe 15 minutes to do about a pound of amaranth, and we have to do about 2 pounds for 200 bars, more or less. So it's, like I said, one of the more challenging bars that we make.
Nice, yeah, and I'm going in for a second, sorry.
Nice.
Anybody has any other questions so far? We see, sorry, talking with my mouth full, but that's what we do here with chocolate tastings. Guatemala, hi from Guatemala, hi from Jamaica. You have Ecuador in the house. Colombia, Trinidad, Canada, Ghana, everybody's in the house. So a lot of people. Yeah. So if you have any questions, just keep on adding them in. And so the next one, as I finish, you could talk about is your work with Alibi, and Mocha Crunch Bars.
Yeah, so that was. Let me kind of rewind a little bit. So we did a bar with Demitas Coffee Roasters here in LA several years ago, and what we had started doing, kind of like what a lot of other makers do, we were actually sprinkling coffee grounds on the back. And it was funny because I brought this bar back to the owner of Demitas, this guy named Bobby, really, really great guy, fantastic coffee roaster. And he took a bite of the bar, and he said, "This is absolutely disgusting. You're not supposed to eat, coffee. You're supposed to drink it. Is there some way that we can kind of do this a different way?" And I said, I don't know. I have to kind of think about it. And so he's like, "Well, is there a way to brew the coffee and then just, pour that on the chocolate?" And I said, "Well, not really." So I had to kind of think about it a little bit, and kind of fast forward a few years. We had started talking with Alibi Coffee Roasters. They're in the mid-city area of LA. And we really, really liked they did this mugshot blend. It's like a blend of a few different origins. And it just had this really nice note to it. And I figured, there's got to be a way that we can kind of work together on this. So we actually had the roasters come to the factory, and we sat down and we did a cupping with their different coffees. And then we actually paired them with each of our different bars. And all of our favorite was the mugshot blend along with the Ghana, which is what this is. And that was literally just drinking a sip of coffee and then eating a bite of chocolate. And I asked them, I said, "Okay, so what's the proper extraction temperature of your coffee?" And they said, "Well, 195 degrees Fahrenheit, just below boiling." And I said, "Well, you can heat cocoa butter up easily that high." And so we thought, okay, maybe we could do like a pour over. So we did a little experiment. They brought a bunch of like coffee stuff with them, and so we actually had the little pour over. We tried it with cocoa butter. We actually extracted out the grinds that way, rather than grinding the coffee into the melanger, because I think a lot of makers do that, and I'm trying to think. I think we did a test on that a long time ago. And the problem is you get all the fiber from the coffee beans, and you don't want to eat coffee, you want to drink it. So by getting the oils and extracting those oils out at the proper temperature, it kind of locks that in with the cocoa butter. And has a remarkably long shelf life. We were really surprised because if you think about it, a lot of coffee tends to go stale after, like a week or two, right? But by kind of coating it in the cocoa butter, it lasts a lot longer. So we played around with that and kind of pre-grinding the coffee grinds at different particle sizes in order to get the extraction process out, not getting it too bitter because, you have to kind of balance that out. So once we got that figured out, we started kind of scaling that up a little bit. So instead of doing, say, just one little tiny pour over, we could do, several pounds of cocoa butter with the coffee at once. And so we can make much, much bigger batches. So we can actually scale that up, which is pretty cool. I don't know how many people have been doing cocoa butter extraction with coffee. I don't know if we're the first ones to do it, but it's not a very common thing at all. And we just find that it has a much better balance that way.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, so this bar I have, it's like the older. I don't have the newer mold, but it's the old school mold for you guys.
Cool.
The old school. So
right.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Cheers. Yep, it's kind of like you get your coffee and your like a mocha basically. Like,
that's kind of the idea, yeah.
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 And it's like it still has that. I think the Ghana base still brings along that like childhood memory of the chocolate ice pops, the icicle pops. So it's like fudgy. And it's also like coffee, so it's like a fudgy coffee, which I don't know if coffee ever tastes fudgy, but it's like a really nice, indulgent, decadent experience. But I do have a question for you from Laughing Gold Chocolates. They asked when you talk about injecting into the molds. How does that work? What type of tools?
Oh, a 99-cent veterinary syringe, 100 cc's.
Oh.
Super high tech. Yeah. So I've been, in fact, it was, Adam from Undone Chocolate several years ago. He actually came over to our apartment when we were still working out of our apartment. And he said, how are you injecting, or how are you putting chocolate in your molds? I said, well, we're just ladling it. He said, have you thought about using a veterinary syringe? I said, oh, that's a great idea. So we adopted that technique. You have to cut the tip off of the syringe because the aperture is too narrow. So if it's, say, that long, you kind of cut it maybe like 2/3 of the way down. So, you got maybe 1/4 of an inch aperture. So the advantage of doing that is it's very clean. You can do inclusions like the amaranth. The disadvantage of doing that is that if you draw chocolate into the syringe too quickly or squirt it out too quickly, you'll actually heat up the chocolate around the sides of the plunger, and you'll actually throw your chocolate out of temper. You'll get a nice streak right down the middle of every single bar. So for the last, I'd say
that's happened to you.
Yeah, not ever, right? Not that it still happens. In fact, lately, because our batches are getting much bigger, we've started using 2 or 3 syringes per batch because one syringe will just, start caking on a little bit of chocolate around the edges of the plunger, and it's just not going to work the entire way through. But I will say that doing this kind of action, hundreds and hundreds of times every single day for 5.5 years, I've got incredible pain all throughout my arm. It's not good. So one of the reasons why we wanted to get a new tempering machine, so we don't have to keep doing that. Like I said, we probably will have to keep doing that for the amaranth. I'm not sure, but hopefully with all the other ones we can switch to just using a foot pedal, and it just injects all 3 molds at once and then done. So yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And I also have another one. Since we're still on the topic of the mocha, Boracco, Baracco chocolate. Sorry if I messed that up. How long do you extract the coffee in the butter, the cocoa butter?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. For a pound of butter, maybe an hour.
All
I'd say
right.
about an hour. Yeah, it's not as long as cold brew is because again, you're doing it at a hot temperature as opposed to cold because cold brew, you can do 24 hours, which does give you a lot less acidity. But obviously, cocoa butter would just be completely solid at that point. Um, so yeah, about an hour I would say for a pound of cocoa butter.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's been a lot of people that have been joining. Hello to everybody. There's just way too many to call out everybody. But I think at this point we have a couple minutes left and we have one bar to go. But
Hmm.
I wanted to just before we get into the last Tranquilidad bar, I wanted to mention how you guys could help support David and Corey during this time, and we curated this 4 bar bundle, which David will have on his website, right? You have on your site
Yeah, it's
now.
live now. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bundle of 4 bars that you can purchase and support them. How much is that bundle going to be going for?
Yeah, so the 4 bars would normally be 48, but as part of the whole stay at home with chocolate thing, we're doing it for 40. So you're basically getting $8 off, and right now we're doing free nationwide shipping. So even if you just order that, we'll totally ship it to you for free. So we're just trying to get our chocolate out there, to people because I know a lot of people are kind of just sitting around at home, and chocolate
Mm-hmm.
kind of helps out a lot. So a lot of people have been actually emailing us and saying thank you so much for being able to do this because just having some chocolate at home really helps these days.
Yep. And so the deal that that I approached David this week about was, once everybody who purchases that bundle gets their chocolate, we can have an online tasting through a Zoom call, and whoever's there, we could taste the bars together, and then you could ask all the nerdy chocolate questions you want to David, or any other questions you may have around like, his journey into, how he has lasted 6 years so far, and all those types of questions. You could have X all that during that time, and you'll get the tasting guide and the tasting sheet emailed to you. I'll make sure you guys get that. So it's a deal that I think is worthy for this time and to help support friends in the industry and all of our supporters as well. So that's there. So go crash the LetterPress website now and go order it. We'll post a link afterwards. I know a lot of David's subscribers have already received that info, so we'll just make sure we keep posting it for the next 2 weeks, and we'll make sure everybody has a chance to get those. So without further ado, I think the last bar here is Tranquilidad Bolivia. So what's your inspiration around this one?
So again, we found that most chocolate makers kind of hover around the same 7 to 10 origins over and over again, and one of them that we kept seeing popping up over the years is something called Wild Bolivia or Bolivia Wild Harvest or things like that. And so we had heard that there's this guy named Volker Lehman, and he's like one of the top cacao fermentation experts in the world. That, and I would say probably up there with Dan O'Doherty from Cacao Services in Hawaii. And really, Volker just takes such an amazing amount of care with his cacao, and so it is wild harvested cacao. What's really interesting is that there's a lot of bars out there that are calling themselves Beniano or wild harvested, Tranquilidad or whatever. There's actually only a few bars out there, and Volker is the first to say, hey, these are my beans or these aren't my beans. So this is definitely his beans. And we actually contributed to, I think he did a GoFundMe a few years ago, and he said, well, you want to just do beans as a reward? I'm like, yeah, sure. So we got these beans, and the problem is, and unfortunately I don't have any on me here, but the beans are really, really tiny. They're about the size of a dime. And the pods, rather than a regular cacao pod, which is like, say, the size of a football, they're the size of lemons. Wow. They're really, really tiny. So at the time we were using a Frankenstein. You use the hand crank and it has the rollers, right? But the problem is that the aperture is fixed, and these beans were just falling through the aperture. You can't use a Frankenstein, and so we even bought an adjustable aperture Frankenstein, which didn't work very well. And then we tried a champion juicer to crack them, and that made a giant mess. And so we weren't really sure what to do, and so we actually kind of just hung on to the beans. We actually did make one little test batch, and I felt that it was just really, really acidic because they had just come off of the drying racks. And so what happened was we just kind of took the bags of beans and just put them in storage and kind of not really forgot about them, but we figured we'd revisit them after a while. And so we let them rest for about a year. So after a year, we went and we tasted the beans again, and they were much more mellow and kind of more like what I remembered from trying some several years ago. So we were talking with Mike from 24 Blackbirds up in Santa Barbara, and I said, hey, I want to start working with this cacao. And I knew he had built an impact cracker, basically a giant cylinder. You just pour buckets of beans through the top, and it just kind of would shatter on the insides of the cylinder and then just come out the bottom. And so I roasted a full batch here and then threw the buckets in my car, drove up to Santa Barbara, and then we poured the beans in there. I mean, we were able to shatter the entire batch in maybe 3 or 4 minutes. It was really, really fast because he has a big giant one. So we shattered it, and then I brought it back, and then we went into it here, made it into chocolate here, and I think that was batch one. Which batch do you have?
Batch one.
That's batch one. Cool, nice. So that is the beans that we roasted here, but we cracked in Santa Barbara and then brought them back. I have batch number 2, and batch 2 onward, we used our new impact crackers. So Mike had us, he got us a smaller version of the big giant one because we couldn't afford that. Yeah. So we use it's like a small tabletop one, and it takes, on average, I would say around 20 to 25 minutes to crack about 70 pounds of beans in the new impact crackers. So we had done some tests with Ecuador because they were really giant beans, kind of the opposite problem with the Frankenstein. It's just, they barely fit through the aperture. So that took about 2.5 hours using a Frankenstein, and so using the new impact cracker, we got it down to about 24 minutes. So much, much faster.
Very
so,
funny. Yeah. Trish, my IC 2016, she just commented, wow, it took longer to dry the Santa Barbara than to crack the beans.
Yeah, pretty much. No, seriously, it was a nightmare. So now that we have the impact cracker, I mean, we're not using that just for Tranquilidad. We're using that for all of our origins, and so that just speeds up our cracking just in general. So we can blast through a batch. We can basically roast a batch of beans, and then we proof it overnight. But then the next day, when we crack it, sort it, and then load a grinder, we can do all of that in 2 hours.
Wow.
So much faster.
Yeah. So let's take this. See, the nice snap there. It's very mellow. Took a note. Yeah. I'm ready to go for it. Cheers.
Cool.
Kind of getting a coffee note. It's funny. It's definitely not like the mocha,
right?
But it does have that the coffee note coming through.
Yeah, our tasting notes are kind of buttercream in the beginning. You kind of get that really kind of rich, not quite dairy, but a little bit kind of buttery note, and then it kind of drops down into an espresso finish. So this is, I think, right now one of my personal favorites. This is the kind of chocolate that I kind of want to take LetterPress into, as far as like, this is the style that I think we want to do. This is the type of flavor profile that we want to accomplish. Yeah, for me, I think my favorite part is the finish. It just kind of has a really nice, kind of a mellow finish to it.
Yeah. It's not like overly complex either.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a smooth, mellow journey. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's very tranquil.
Mm-hmm.
Very tranquil.
Right.
It's like it's just like it's like a comforting. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not like in your face with all these flavors, but something like subdued. And like if you just need like that piece of chocolate to just get you through whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like that. Alone for a second.
I think what I like about it is that it's just very accessible. It's a very, like I said, it's technically very difficult to do, and it's actually really easy to screw it up. It took us a while to kind of get that roast where it kind of, you don't really want to overthink it, if that makes any sense. So basically, it's just a very enjoyable chocolate. That's what I'm really trying to go for, because again, a lot of the cacao out there is just, it's either really fruity or really acidic. And so in this particular case, like I said, we ended up resting the beans for about a year to kind of mellow them out a little bit, because they were really acidic in the beginning. Some cacao just needs that, some more than others, but yeah. And then this one, we age all of our chocolate at least a month. And this one, I think we age for about a month and a half to kind of hit that balance. So, but yeah, we age all of our chocolate, but this one I think we age a little bit on the longer.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. I think it's like the second or third time I've tried the bar, and it's really nice, really nice. I know like we're a little bit over, but I'm sure it's fine. Um, if you had to like have a chocolate gun to your head, like which one, which one would you like survive an apocalypse with, if you had one of these four bars?
For me personally,
Yeah, yeah.
um, I mean, for me, probably Tranquilidad, but I mean, um, hmm, I guess I don't really dislike any of my bars. Yeah, I think because Tranquilidad again is just, it's just very enjoyable, and it's funny because you were saying it's not really complex, but if you taste it several times, there actually are kind of layers to it that will kind of come out over time, and
Yeah.
I think that's what I like the most. So that bar specifically, like, I don't know how much you talk about the time of day that you taste chocolate, but like, say for example, first thing in the morning, my palate's really fresh, so that's usually when I do like tasting notes. Corey and I will sit down first thing in the morning, write stuff down, but then we'll taste throughout the day as well and just kind of see how different it is. And I think Tranquilidad is one of those bars that is actually very different depending on what time of day it is, and obviously, what you've eaten, what you've had to drink, things like that. But yeah, out of these four bars, that'd be my personal favorite. But I think out of all of our bars that we made, either like Ukiali or Jamaica, and then we had a very, very small batch of Hawaii from Mauna Kea on the Big Island that was just really, really nice. They did a really great job on the fermentation on that, but we can't get it very consistently, so it's not a very common bar for us to have.
Yeah. So a couple of people just chimed in a little bit here. Just want to share their comments. The folks at Ecole Chocolat love the I don't know which bar it was. I'm gonna guess it was the Tranquilidad bar because it was most recent. Trish says she really likes the Ukiali bar, which is also one of my favorites as well. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's tough, but I think I have to go with the Amaranth Crunch
Cool.
during the looming apocalypse. But Ghana is a close second.
Cool.
Yeah, but I joke because I'm a big Walking Dead fan that like, and I work in HR on Sixth Avenue across the street from Radio City Music Hall, and I went to my coworkers the other day, before we had to work from home, so maybe like 2.5 weeks ago. I'm like, I feel like one day we're gonna just see zombies walking down Sixth Avenue, and now like it could be an actual possibility. So
Right,
we need to
right.
make sure we're prepared with chocolate.
Definitely.
But
You flashing the bling there?
yeah, I mean, hello.
Oh, dude, check you out. Nice. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, totally. I had several
Cool.
wardrobe changes today between Ben's shirt and this shirt.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I just want to like wrap things up and just thank the first off thank the people who put this whole week together. Uncommon Cacao, the Fine Cacao and Chocolate Institute, Emily from Craft Chocolate Experience. So those guys, they all just like worked really hard to collaborate and get everybody together. I want to thank you and Corey for what you guys do at LetterPress, and we hope that everybody's able on watching and the weeks after supporting you guys and making sure that the online orders keep coming in, spreading the word to people who never tasted LetterPress chocolate. It's something that I met you guys back in I think I met you 2015 or something like that when we did
Yeah.
a cacao grading course, and 5 years later or something like that. I see how you guys grown over the 6 years, and I know I remember tasting your first bars, walking around with you at Northwest years back
Yep.
at the old location.
Yeah.
And I was like, when can I buy? He's like, oh, I'm not buying yet. I'm not selling yet. So,
Yeah.
it's fun how, I've, out of pretty much all the makers, I probably have a lot of your bars. Like that's like the ones that I like go to the most comforting.
Cool.
But yeah, so is there anything else you want to share with the fans out there and anybody else?
Yeah, so I mean, again, thank you to FCCI, Carla, and everyone else who helped put this together. It's really fantastic that this whole community has just been able to do this event, and glad that we could be some small part of that. For folks watching at home, just please support not just us, but like all craft chocolate makers, and even just all small businesses, and even our friends in the restaurant industry. This is a really, really tricky time right now, and so anything you can do helps because it's a very widespread thing that has affected a lot of people, us, but a lot of other people as well. So very much appreciated. We've received a huge number of online orders over the last couple of weeks. Has been phenomenal. But we need to keep that going because right now we can't do tours. That was our main source of revenue, and we can't do them right now. So we'll see. In LA, they basically told us that all restaurants are shut down until I think at least May. So
Wow.
we have to at least survive through all of next month, and then we'll see how May is going at that point. But it could be June by the time we open up again. I'm not really sure. So hopefully we can hang in there.
Yeah. And Adam from Monsoon just
Hey, Adam.
yeah. So yeah, I think I appreciate doing this. Make sure guys go on to letterpresschocolate.com, grab the bundle. Let's have a nice tasting with David and Corey in a couple weeks. Get to ask them all the questions you want and just chat chocolate, and just support everybody in the industry and in the restaurant industry, and we're all in it together. You're right, Adam. Hang in there. All right, so I think that's it for now. I think
Cool.
we're well past our time. So I want to thank you guys, and stay safe and stay healthy and keep on rocking.
All right, you too. Thanks a lot, man.
Bye.
All right, take it easy.